we took all of the books, Bibles, and hymnals out of the back of the seats because we didn't have the staff to sterilize them after each use. So it's better for you to use your own Bible. Amen. Amen. But in Mark chapter 15, Mark chapter 15, I want us to notice verse 12 through 15. However, we will be utilizing pretty much that whole chapter, Mark chapter 15, in our message. Amen. Chapter 15, verse 12 through 15. Amen. Are you there? Yes. Amen. Let's read together. We haven't had a chance to do that in some time. Let's read together starting at verse 12. All right? And Pilate answered and said again unto them, What will ye then that I should do unto him whom ye call the King of the Jews? And they cried out again, Crucify him. Then Pilate said unto them, Why? What evil had he done? And they cried out more exceedingly, Crucify him. Verse 15, watch this. So Pilate, willing to content the people, released Barabbas unto them, and delivered Jesus when he had forced him to be crucified. Amen. I want to talk in just a few minutes about handed over. He didn't want to do it, but he did. He, against his better judgment, handed Jesus over to be crucified. Handed him over for the express purpose of being crucified. As a matter of fact, Mark in this chapter deals with a series of hand-offs or handovers as he deals with the account of the cross. Now, if you notice at the opening of Mark 15, Jesus is handed over to Pilate by hypocritical, cunning deception of the chief priests and scribes. And the reason they handed him over because earlier they had found him guilty of blasphemy. Over in chapter 14, verse 63 through 65, you will notice that they found him guilty. Then, if you notice, and I hope you haven't closed up Mark chapter 15 yet, keep your books open because we're going to explore through this passage. If you notice in chapter 15, verse 11, the crowd asked Pilate to hand over the prisoner Barabbas. They chose Barabbas. They said, give us Barabbas. And this handover had a long-standing tradition of political appeasement. It was their custom. It was their tradition. At this particular time to hand over a prisoner, to let a prisoner go free. And you can imagine the crowd choosing Barabbas over Jesus. Well, I really can't, can you? I can't really imagine choosing convicted murderer for freedom and to hand over Jesus, who they found no fault in him, handed him over for execution. But guess what? That's what they did. So Pilate handed Jesus over to be ridiculed and tortured. You remember, don't you, how they spit on it?
Yes.
How somebody who was kind of gifted, talented, took thorns and weaved a crown made of thorns and put it on his head, said, since you're the king, wear this crown. And put it on his head. He was ridiculed and he was tortured. Somebody blindfolded him, put a mask on him so he couldn't see, and took their fist and hit him and said, who was it that hit you? Because Jesus didn't even try to deal with that. Then, after they had finished or had enough fun, they tortured him and then turned him over. The soldiers turned Jesus over to be crucified. How many handovers have you noticed so far? Hands him over now to be crucified. But before they finished with their handing over and handing off and turning over, the record indicates that they gave Jesus to the soldiers to be crucified, but they handed the cross beam that was to be carried to the top of the place called skull. They handed that cross beam over to a black man by the name of Simon of Cyrene. While hanging, if you notice, from the cross, the crowd gets involved. Crowd gets involved and they hand over drugged wine for him to drink. They gave him what you might call a painkiller. But Jesus didn't need no painkiller because his pain was for a purpose.
Right.
He was suffering for you and for me. After, you remember, Jesus breathed his last breath. Then another handover takes place as Pilate hands over Jesus' body to Joseph of Arimathea to be buried. Well, so the whole character of Mark 15 is one of high tragedy. As the curtain rises on the day, notice something happened. The whole sky went dark. In that Mark presents us with a familiar cast of antagonists. They didn't do as the Pharisees had done, as the Herodians had done in chapter 3, verse 6. they held a council. And I tell you, a lot of folk are having councils and they're consulting. Not to better understand the people of God, but they're really trying to devise a way in which to get rid of the people of God. Oh, I tell you, if they had their way, our streets would be cleared now. But God's people are people who have love in their heart. And because of an unknown individual by the name of George Floyd, the whole nation seems to have come together, not to get rid, but to get rid of hate and injustice. However, if you notice here in this chapter, these religious leaders hand over, and they were glad to do it, they hand over their problem to Pilate. How many know that when you got a problem, you don't know how to deal with it? You'll be glad to hand it over to somebody else. You look at verse 1 here in chapter 15. Notice, and straightway in the morning, the chief priests held a consultation with the elders and scribes and the whole council, and bound Jesus, carried him away, and delivered him to Pilate. The reason they gave him to Pilate because they didn't know what to do with him. Can I tell you, when Pilate asked the question, what shall I do with this man called Christ? It was really deeper than what the question implied. Because, can I tell you, you have to do more with Jesus than the normal mind really thinks about. Yeah. Now, they had devised a reason and a plan to get rid of it. They said, well, I'll tell you what to do. Let's crucify him. They said, I think what we ought to do is, well, to let Barabbas go free and execute Jesus in his place. The only problem with that, only Rome could carry out an execution. Rome, the Sanhedrin could make the suggestion, but they couldn't execute the prisoner. So then, they come to find out they have a problem on their hand. What then are we going to do with Jesus? So then, the record indicates that they had to turn him over to Pilate. Because Pilate had the authority to execute. How many know that Pilate was a politician?
Yes, sir.
Can I tell you what a politician is? A politician is a low-down, crooked lawyer. Excuse me if any lawyers in here. But you do know that a lawyer ain't nothing but a professional liar. He'll know you're guilty. He'll know that you are still holding the smoking gun in your hand. But if you got enough money, he'll get you off and let somebody else suffer in your place. Yeah, ain't nothing but a crooked lawyer. Well, notice that Pilate would be right at home in Washington. Yeah, we send him up to Washington, send him up to the White House. He'd be right at home with some of the politicians. Because, you see, Pilate was the kind of politician where expediency was the order of the day. He wasn't concerned about justice. He was only concerned about pleasing. I mean, you know that sometimes we come to church that way. Come to church not really concerned about doing what's right. We just want to make sure that we don't ruffle anybody's feathers. Y'all gonna pray with me? He actually sought to release Jesus when he found out that Jesus was innocent. Now, had he been the right kind of individual who really wanted to do the right thing with Jesus, can I tell you, he would have said, no, this man is innocent, and we're going to set him free. Y'all going to pray with me? But he was concerned about pleasing the people. And when one seeks to please all sides, in other words, Pilate talked out of both sides of his mouth. And when you seek to please everybody through compromise, can I tell you, nobody is really pleased. Well, can I tell you, we all have to stand on our own feet when we deal with that decision and what we are to do about Jesus. Don't you take nobody else's word for it. Folk will say, if I were you, I'd do this and I would do that. But you see, that's not accurate. Because if you were me, you'd be doing what I'm doing. Because you would be me. You understand? So don't listen to what folks say. You let God speak to you. Let God speak to you. Well, this whole mob has been instructed to demand that Jesus be crucified. And I tell you, we've seen a lot of mobs these last couple of days. Peaceful protesting. Doesn't take long for it to start become a mob. They turn from peaceful protesting till it comes to looting and rioting. Can I get a witness? So then, when they demand that Jesus be crucified, Pilate asked the question, what evil has he done? Well, if you have to ask, is it right or wrong? You don't have a conscience of your own. You don't have a voice of your own. You ought to be able to stand on your own feet and say, well, I know this man has done nothing wrong. And so I stand with him because he is a man that tried to love everybody. The only evil that he did was deal with evil. And so they cried out the most, crucified. He yielded to that cry. And he handed Jesus over to the soldiers to be crucified. Well, I'm almost through here, but if you notice in verse 32 through 34, Mark gives us the crucifixion by the clock. Don't know if you noticed that, but he gives it to us by the cross. On the third hour. You see that, don't you? He was put on the cross. And then at the sixth hour, which would have been 12 noon. Notice darkness came all over the land.
Right.
So then from the 6th to the 9th hour,
Right.
that means from 12 to 3 p.m. That was total darkness. Now I want you to watch this. Our world is filled with darkness.
Yes.
We live in a world where men's hearts are dark. Men's minds are dark. Men's love has turned from love to hate. And darkness everywhere. And I don't have to tell you that there's darkness in New York. Darkness in Washington. I don't have to tell you that there's darkness in Lafayette Plaza. Darkness everywhere. And most darkness that you'll find anywhere is that you'll discover that it's dark when you push people away with tear gas and rubber bullets and use force to clear a path for the so-called leader of our country to make a photo op standing on the steps of a church holding a Bible upside down. We're living in a dark world, I tell you. But darkness was everywhere. I'm glad that somewhere in the Bible it tells us that Jesus is the light of the world. Aren't you glad about that? The first 3 hours, notice this, was from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. The second 3 hours were from 12 noon to 3 o'clock. Well, what do you get out of that? Simply says that Jesus hung on the cross for 6 long hours. They'll take a criminal today, they'll put him in the gas chamber, maybe even the electric chair. But that idea only takes a few minutes, and it's over. Jesus hung there from 12 to 3, from the 6th to the 9th hour. Can I get a witness? Notice, as I close here, in the first 3 hours, there was physical light. When they put him on the cross at 9 in the morning, notice it was physically light.
Okay.
Can I tell you, there can be sun shining outside, but it can still be dark in your heart. Y'all gonna pray with me? Well, in the second 3 hours, that physical light turned to physical darkness. Well, in the first 3 hours, there was spiritual darkness.
All right.
Then, in the second 3 hours, there was spiritual light. Why? Because in the first 3 hours, man was working. Man was working, and he was doing his very worst. But in the second 3 hours, God was working.
Yes.
And when God is working, he's doing his very best. How many knows he was suffering at the hands of man in the first 3 hours? But he was suffering for man in the last 3 hours. Can I get a witness? Well, in the first 3 hours, he was dying because of sin.
Right, right.
But in the second 3 hours, he would die for sin.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm so glad that he gave his life that I might live. He would die for the sin of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, and I hear people talking about, I'm so glad he died, and I'm glad he died also.
Yeah.
But can I tell you, if time was off, it wouldn't have been fixed for me. He didn't just die, he died. But 3 days later, he got up again. Yeah, that darkness that covered the whole world, light began to shine. 3 days later, and he all right. If God is all right, let me hear you say it. I'm so glad he died that day. Brother preacher, when you tell a story, don't leave him in the grave. Let the whole world know that yes, he died. He died on Friday. Then he died. Put him in Joe's tomb. Fill the tomb with a rock. Put a rock in a rock. Put a rock in the front of a rock. They sung him on. They sung him on. He got up. Didn't he do it? All power in his hand. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And yes, he died. But no sin but my sin. Sunday morning, he got up for my justification. I can tell the world he fixed it for me. Put me on the right road. Ain't it all right? Are you on the right road now? Yeah. I can tell everybody I'm on the right road now. He fixed it up for me. I'm on the right road. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. You can't stop me. He fixed it for me. They handed him over until they got tired. One of these days, they're going to hand me over. And they're going to hand you over. Is that all right? I know one thing. When I can read my title clear, a mansion in the sky, it'll be all right then. I can tell everybody I'm bound. Yeah, I'm bound. I'm bound. But baby, you can't stop me. when Jesus says, servant, well done. Come on up. Ain't he all right? Maybe there's somebody.